Hello, this is Stephanie with Apex Languages. I have another grown-up grammar for you. Today we are going to wrap up our conversation on articles. And we're going to talk a little bit more about uncountable nouns and how you measure them. So, to review, countable nouns are, in theory, things that you can count easily, like a monkey, a dog, and a pig. Uncountable nouns, on the other hand, are things that we tend to think of in groups. So you don't think of individual grains of sand, you think of the sand on the beach, which is made of thousands and thousands of tiny bits and pieces. Another group of uncountable nouns includes abstract concepts. So again, things that you can't really touch or feel, like love, happiness, or fun. Now, in the past, I've talked about how some words can be uncountable and countable. Water, for example, the general idea of water versus a glass of water, which is more specific. Last time we also talked about paper. If you're just talking about paper that you need to write on, it's uncountable. But if you're talking about an essay, that is a paper. A paper is specifically some sort of essay that you're writing. The paper is just a more specific version of either of these concepts. I also mentioned last time that football is another example of this. If you just say, I play football, I like football, you're talking about the game in general. But a football is specifically the ball used in the game. If you want to be even more specific still, the football that Lucy stole from Charlie Brown. Okay, so a football is any ball that's used in the game, but the football, I'm being the most specific possible. It doesn't work for all words though. Soccer, I play soccer, I like soccer, but a soccer ball. You can't say a soccer. It doesn't make any sense. You have to use soccer as an adjective and say a soccer ball. So only specific words can be used this way. And they're words that tend to describe abstract concepts generally. So a new example is time. When you just say time, there's not enough time in the world. You're referring to the general use of all the time that has ever existed. It really doesn't get much more abstract than that. What is time? You can't touch it. You can't feel it, right? But a time, a long time ago, right? When you say a time, you're referring to a period of time, usually, a longer period of time. So there was a time when I too was young and full of energy, but that time is gone. Okay, so you can use it to sort of narrow down. We're not talking about all the time ever, but a more clearly defined period. Still general, but it's been limited a little bit. Okay, the time that I was young, right? So that's let's say 15 years or so, right? As opposed to forever, eternity. If you refer to the time, what is the time? Then you're going to be very specific. It is 12:25 and 10 seconds. Maybe not necessarily that, but you're definitely going to be. It's not just this vague period, but you become even more specific. So eternity, a period of time, and what is the time? 12:25. One more example for you, freedom. Okay, people have fought and died for freedom, but what is it exactly? Sometimes it can be hard to define. So that's what makes it an uncountable noun, an abstract idea. When you talk about freedom, it's a very big idea. but we can qualify it a little bit more, be a little bit more specific. For example, in our Constitution, in the United States Constitution, we created the Bill of Rights, which defines certain freedoms. Freedom of speech, okay? We have the right to say whatever we want, okay? So that's a freedom out of several, out of many that we have. Another freedom is the right to bear arms. Maybe not my favorite, but it's a freedom that we have. Okay, the freedom to live in this country and come and go as we please is very important to many Americans. So you can see a, and then the is just slightly more specific, but it does not always have to drastically change the meaning like it does in the case of water or paper, okay? Freedom is an idea of freedom is a more specific example. You break it into parts, right? Here's freedom, let's break it up into parts. Freedom to say what I want, freedom from tyranny of a king, okay? The freedom is just a little bit more specific. As I said before, however, not all words allow you to do this. So what do you do when you have an uncountable noun that doesn't have that sort of flexibility? You use measure words. Now, this is a concept that we see all the time if you're making a recipe, for example. Okay, I need an egg. One egg, right, is an egg. A banana. Eggs and bananas are countable. So we don't need anything else. An egg. But sugar is one of those group concepts. We don't think about individual molecules of sugar. We think of sugar as a group. So a cup of white sugar. Vanilla extract is a liquid. Again, that group concept. So a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay. Butter. Some of these make a little bit more sense than others, but butter is sort of a gelatinous thing, and so we think of it as uncountable. So it's a half of a cup. You could say a half cup, but a half of, because half is a measure word, a cup of butter. Okay, and then a pinch of salt. Okay, different type of measuring things. And so hopefully you've caught on that there's an equation, a measure word of uncountable noun. Let's see this in action. A box of cereal, a cup of soup, a glass of water, a bag of rice, a slice of bread, a serving of ice cream. Now, these words can be measured in many different ways. So you could also say a bowl of cereal, a can of soup, a bottle of water, a grain of rice, a loaf of bread, or a carton of ice cream. Some are general, bowls, cans, bottles, right? You can use those for a lot of different things. And some words are a little bit more specific. That loaf of bread is very specific to bread. A carton of ice cream. Maybe you have a carton of eggs as well. But, some of these terms are more specific. And those very extreme cases, you just have to memorize, what word goes with what. That being said, there are more general terms. A lot of cereal, a little bit of soup, a ton of water, ton's a lot, right? A pile of rice, plenty of bread. Now, plenty is itself uncountable, and so you don't use in front of it, but plenty is a measure word. Okay, plenty of bread. Another thing that you can do, some ice cream. Some is most commonly used as a, in the plural. Okay, it's just the idea of plural, but it's a great alternative to your measure words. Some ice cream. I prefer plenty of ice cream, but we'll work with some ice cream. Now let's look at some things that aren't food. Okay, so these a lot of little bit ton, right? They can be used for a lot of different things. But again, what are some specific words, some specific measure words? A piece of furniture. Piece is a very good word for a lot of things. A tube of toothpaste, a sheet of paper, a roll of toilet paper, a tank of gasoline, and a bar of soap. Let's practice a little bit. Fill in the blank with a, un, or nothing. So is lesson countable? A lesson, okay? Because it's a specific period of time. It goes with a time, so it's a lesson. It stops and it ends. It is clearly defined, so a lesson. Snow is not countable. It is uncountable. Again, this idea of a group. We don't count the individual raindrops. We don't count the individual snowflakes. It's just snow. How about hailstorm? Now, with H's, you have to be careful. Is it hailstorm or ailstorm? What ails you, right? In this case, hailstorm does have the H sound, so we use a. But why do we need either a or un? Well, because the word storm is countable. Hail is not. Hail is like snow. It is uncountable, but a hailstorm is countable. Finally, we have pizza. What do you think? A pizza or just pizza? This one's a trick one. Both. There are certain foods that are changing. The language is always changing. And so pizza is one of those where it used to be, just pizza. And now it can be either. It can be, I ordered a pizza, I ordered pizza, I ate pizza. Okay? I ate a ton of pizza. Whatever you'd like. But be aware that there's some words where good news, there's no wrong answer there. So you can see from some of these examples that it's not easy. There's exceptions to the rule. Why is storm countable, but the snow isn't? Okay. You'll learn through experience. And really, that's the best I can tell you. Sometimes it just does come down to memory. Not because the language is random, but because the history of any language is complex and the reasons behind some of these, the what's countable, uncountable, it's a cultural conception of what we think we can count. And even though our minds, our cultural agreement of, for example, pizza has changed, it's changing right now. When the word was originally coined, that meaning might have been different. And so, history can hide a lot of logic, but there was always a reason originally for something. Sometimes you just have to memorize it. But at least I hope that you have some sort of a better idea of how to tell the difference between countable and uncountable. So I will leave you with that, and I promise next week we're going to talk about something besides articles. Keep watching my videos at apexlanguages.com. Thank you as always. Have a wonderful day.